Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tech-Mex podcast. I'm your host, Eric Ramirez, and I've got my awesome co-host here, the Mondo Gomez.
The one and only, man.
Well, welcome, everybody. We're here on episode 20, number 20, the big 2-0. Today, we're going to be talking about job seekers, AIs that lie, and the Tesla Cybertruck. So let's get into it. Dale.
Dale. Yeah, I started seeing a couple news, man, on some videos for Tesla. So, I'm excited that Houston is flat.
Oh, really?
Yes, because it is actually having trouble to climb. There are several videos in Instagram that the Cybertruck is struggling to be in steep hills. Are you still on? You still want to get it?
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, Tesla. That's the whole point of the Cybertruck, was so I could climb over the barriers on the freeway so I can get off. If it can't get up a hill, I'm not sure what we're going to do. I mean, you know what? The thing is, it's got to be super heavy, right?
It is heavy, I think. I think that is pretty heavy. So
that must be the issue then. How would it, how do you think it would even perform like on the beach or something?
Well, that's the issue, right? Is the torque. So they will have to, mechanically speaking, they will have to put maybe some more gearing system to be able to increase the torque. But also the problem with that is that you might need more battery power, right? So no wonder why they're taking a little bit longer to release it, because there is a lot of things, right? So and I always have been impressed on their quality. So I'm glad that they're doing that, so that they're spending the time to figure out these little details.
Yeah. So you mean all my stories about our Tesla hasn't deterred you yet?
I mean, if you think about it, it's just very new company, right? Compared to Ford, right? I mean, and they still the same crappy products. Sorry, Ford.
Wait, if they sponsor us.
well, maybe.
It might be better. I don't know.
It might get better, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, despite all the things that I've mentioned about the Tesla, we really enjoy it. We actually like the torque. It's very punchy. Whenever you would need to get around somebody, it's a nice thing to have when you need it. So we're not always using it. And here's the thing. Tesla insurance still sucks. Okay. My insurance rate has gone up to like $260 a month now for the Tesla. And keep in mind, before I got the Tesla, my insurance rate was only $90 a month.
Wow.
So that's 3 times essentially what I was paying just to have a Tesla. So just a small update. It did make a dip, but it came back up with a vengeance. So
it hasn't occurred to you that maybe you're a bad driver?
I have to be very careful what I say, because it's my wife that drives it most of the time. So I'm not going to say too much here.
No, I think that they have anything is like literally they ding you, right? Because of their algorithm. So might be too strict, the algorithm. So it is a tough one.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I'm assuming they're going to tweak it over time. But we will find out kind of how that looks. Right now, it's very, very, very strict. But the thing is, I can't tell. Like, it doesn't make any signal to me that I'm doing something wrong or something that it doesn't like. So I'm not really sure how to correct it. But anyways, yeah. So hopefully the Cybertruck has some of that more figured out, but I can only imagine how much the insurance for that sucker is going to be. If for the little Model Y, it's this much. I don't know how much the Cybertruck's going to add here.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that talking about the Cybertruck, they are making fun of the of the trunk that is on the front, right? They're calling it frunk.
It's not all about the size, Mondo.
That's what she said. Right?
Yeah, that's what the reports are saying. There's some screenshots or videos of the front size. They're saying that the front size is a little bit on the smaller side. When you look at it and you just try to infer some of the size, you can see that it's maybe looks like maybe 4 feet wide and like a foot and a half deep. That's not very big at all. So that might be a little bit tough to contend with. I mean, you might be able to fit a set of golf clubs in there. You might be able to fit, a few bags of groceries. How do you think you would even use it?
Well, I mean, if you're having that extra space, that's funny that they are thinking about the golf clubs, right? So it will be small if you cannot even fit that. Yeah, so it would. I'm curious how people will react, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's something in the designers will have to address.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing: the Ford Lightning that's already out there, they have showed off their big front, and so everyone has seen Ford's big front, and when they see Tesla's front, that's where you really see the big discrepancy. Because remember, what Ford did when they designed their truck is they took their normal truck and just took the engine out, right? So all that space where the engine used to be, that's your front. So you have that big area. So they have, huge. You could fit 2 full bodies in the truck. You could probably go camping in the front.
I don't know what you're planning to do with it.
Coolers where you put food and drinks in, but they're powered, so you could plug them in. I could see you putting one of those in there so it stays cold. You don't have to have the ice or whatever. So, I like a cooler, something like that. That wouldn't fit in the Cybertruck front. And you might be asking, well, what were they thinking? Like, why did they do that? So I think maybe Tesla, they were reacting to the popularity that Ford had with their front. Like, oh man, it's so huge, it's so big, you can do so much stuff with it, it's going to be very useful. Tesla went back there like, okay, Elon was like, hey, fix it. We're like, what can we do here? And
for tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do tomorrow. What do we got? And that's really all the space that there really was in there. Because when the Tesla was created, they built from the ground up. So there's they didn't have this big empty space to work with to begin with. They focused on making sure there was a lot of space in the back. So in the Tesla, the bed size is a full 6 foot. So whereas something like the Ford Lightning or the Rivian, those trucks, the bed size is not as big. So they prioritize the bed size in the back to give you a full 6 feet, make it super useful. So I think that's where the trade-off happened. So they've got a bigger bed, but a smaller frunk, and they wanted to keep the dimensions of the overall truck smaller, so that it competes more with the F-150.
Yeah.
By the way, dimensions are still not out or anything, so we don't have.
It's a speculation.
We still don't have. Yeah, it's still speculation, but people are trying to compare and measure, and it's looking like similar to F-150 probably. So, but anyways, that's what's been going on with the Cybertruck. People are finding, as we get closer to that November 30th release date, we're getting a lot more people with pictures. A lot more people are seeing it out there, and they're really noticing some of the things that might be like a downer, right? The small front size and not be able to climb over some hills. So hopefully, if you just put some nicer tires, you'll be able to make it over a hill. I don't know.
If not, at the end, you can just get out and push it.
That sucker's going to be heavy. I'm going to have to go to the gym a little bit more for that.
A win-win. A win-win. All right. Talking about tech, man. Did you hear this news about the Biden administration trying to get the U.S. Department of Commerce and Economic Development to invest in 31 tech hubs? It's kind of interesting, yeah, because right now the hubs that kind of everyone knows, at least in the United States, is San Francisco, Seattle, and Austin in the past few years here in Texas. But I think that the government is seeing that you have this concentration of people, right? And yeah, there are some other areas like maybe Boston, right? That Massachusetts, that you have a lot of schools over there. And now lately Miami, you have here in it as well. But yeah, there is 31 is, basically is, kind of tech hubs, right? And you have from Oklahoma to Illinois, and they're trying to push some of the different things, but quite interesting. So, what's your take there?
Well, I think in general, like I think it's good. So economic development, that in itself is really meant to help make cities stronger, because the idea behind the economic development is that the more money that you pour into like a city, like in terms of there's a new factory that comes to your state or to your city, right? More infrastructure. It's going to generate jobs, which is going to generate people getting salaries, usually higher, better salaries, making more money, which means they're going to go out and spend more. And so it has this cyclical effect where that means it's going to generate more tax revenue. So the state and cities want to attract these high-paying jobs, because in essence, what it does is, you start generating more tax revenue, the state becomes richer. That means more, better infrastructure, and it's just this cycle that keeps on going. So that's why
you create wealth, right? You are like making wealth. So at the end of the day, you are creating almost from the thin air, right? And the investments are between 40 to 70 millions that they are planning to do for each of these areas. So it's a good investment, and total is going to be $500 million.
Yeah, I mean that should be pretty good. I mean, that's why a lot of these folks, like, remember when Elon was trying to figure out where to build his next factory or whatever, and ended up being in Austin. Like all of these cities, they do pitches to Elon or whoever's bringing the thing here, because they're like, "Hey, we want that money over here. We want that to build our economy." And so what they end up doing is they give incentives, right, to build out here. So what the government's doing here is trying to establish these zones across the U.S. And, a lot of it makes sense. Remember back when we were offshoring a lot of work? Everything was going to, like, let's say India or China or Taiwan or wherever it was going.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, we lost a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that capability. There was a lot of the IP, that knowledge that all left the States. And after, I guess, a generation, maybe it's been the last 30 years, we have less and less of that here back at home. So this is a good strategy, I think, to try to build some of that back up.
Yeah, we discussed this before, that maybe another option for United States is to use their neighbor, right? In this case, Canada and Mexico. And there are trades that to allow us to do that. And we have factories, right, in some of the border towns. But I think that there is also an opportunity to also increase those salaries over there, right? So in that way, it allows you to sometimes to keep some of the immigration, because right now there is a lot of people trying to move. But if they have jobs over there, man, why they would move, right? Well, they don't have to leave their families, and if those towns, they become safe, right? I really think that it's a win-win situation for everyone, for Mexico, for Canada, for United States, and some of those immigrants, right, that they are trying to just to find a better opportunity. So maybe the factories could be the real wall, man.
That's a really interesting concept right there, really, because I think you might think, why do some of these folks want to come over to the U.S.? It's because there's a lot of there's jobs available, right? Whereas maybe in Mexico or in some of the other Latin countries, there maybe aren't as many jobs, or at least jobs that pay well. So I think that could be a viable solution there, if you kind of try to build up around the United States so that we can make our current trade partners richer, right? And this is, same thing for Canada, right? We'll benefit from that too, from the whole economic development perspective, right? The cycle of the money coming in and it's being respent, and you gets paid out again and it gets respent, and all of this generates tax revenue, and it just helps the whole area become richer, wealthier, and the people as well all should benefit. So it's really cool that the Biden administration is trying to do this on finding these little areas. But I'm curious. I wonder how they pick these areas for, like, hey, we choose you. You're going to be a tech hub. How does that
I
work?
think that as you mentioned, there are pitches, right, for each of the cities, and I think that some of them they already are like leaning into certain topics, right? Like in some areas that you have your biotech for biotechnology, kind of New Hampshire or maybe like Boston, right? So kind of on the East Coast, but also they are looking into some of the other technology, like maybe some systems like autonomous systems. Maybe that's as well. And one of that actually kind of piqued my attention was like Oklahoma. Usually you don't hear a lot of things going on in Oklahoma, but again, they can pitch. To the government. So, and sometimes it's pretty cheap in some of those areas. So I think that that's the other thing that they are trying to do to mobilize some people from maybe some of the high-end cities and start just adding that infrastructure to these cities. The other one was energy transition, right? So some places in Louisiana for new type of energy. And also the other one is semiconductors. Here in Texas, we keep expanding, man, all over the place.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think if the overall strategy is to try to bring some of this knowledge and infrastructure, like manufacturing, back to the US, I think it's only going to strengthen the US in terms of being able to be a little bit more self-sufficient. So we're not relying on other countries for providing either certain parts or certain manufacturing capability, and we can try to at least keep some of that knowledge here. So in case the geopolitical stuff changes, we're okay. We're not going to be left in the dark in certain areas. But in Houston, since we're in Houston, I mean, you mentioned the energy stuff. I know the energy is probably already kind of a hub here in Houston, but even the biotech, I know here in the medical center, which is like the biggest medical center in the world in Houston, they are making a big push in biotech. So they are starting this what's called TMC3, and it's a big investment in the Texas Medical Center where we're bringing in a lot of. It's basically a consortium of all the big systems that are in the area, like Texas A&M, University of Texas. You got Baylor. You got several different organizations that are all putting money into this area to build this new biotech hub, so that ideally we start bringing in people from across the U.S. into this area to strengthen what's already a very strong sector in Houston, to make it the best in the world for biotech. I think that's what the goal and overall idea is. So I think that's a very interesting approach. Maybe we should check to see if we can get some of that Biden money. I don't know. They have I'm sure they got grants available. You just got to write a grant proposal or something.
ChatGPT.
Right. Grant function. All right, let's do this.
Yeah. So talking about ChatGPT, use it, man. It's like I was teaching my daughters to use ChatGPT, right? And one of them, she had to write a presentation for a place that she went, and she has to do that. And it's like she asked me to review it. She didn't tell me that was ChatGPT, but I can tell like this is pretty good.
You're like, wow, good job.
And
Gold
then it's
star.
like, and it's like, because I asked her, it's like, how do you did it? And then she started kind of like laughing. It's like, well, I use ChatGPT. That's my daughter. That's my daughter.
Yeah. You got to ask for the sources.
Yes. So I just need to, I told her, well, you need to pay attention because sometimes that thing hallucinates, right? So, and you have to verify that it truly is the fact, right? So, but yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. ChatGPT, it's kind of a fun thing to do. You know, some of the things that you don't really want to do, like performance reviews and stuff like that. Yeah. All right. Good job. I just told Chat GPT, this is probably the third place on the group. So let's let's make it sound like that. It'll be okay. So but real useful.
I started to use it more than Google. I'm starting to count how many times I'm going to Google versus just keeping ChatGPT and yeah, it's like I'm literally decreasing my usage of Google. So good job for the folks on OpenAI.
Yeah, that's true. Sam Altman did a good job. Well, so have you seen the news that people are using this for like resumes and stuff?
I have. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So we've been talking about how there's in the tech world lots of layoffs happening and things like that, right? And just in general, I would imagine, okay, all these tech people are going to be super savvy when it comes to technology. They're all probably know how to use Chat GPT, things like that. Everyone's going to have like these A+ resumes. They're all going to look really good. It's going to be really hard for these. Okay. The hiring side, also the HR folks, they also have their own AI, right? And they've had it for a long time. It's the bots and things like that filter, the resumes. Do they match the position description, stuff like that? So there's going to be AI wars, I think, going back and forth.
Yeah, but not just that. Also, part of the news, and this was very interesting to me. 30% of the tech professionals are looking for a job, right? So it's pretty high. And then when I was reading the article, basically, and another 60% they were trying to look for another job in the next year. So that's 90%. So I let's dissect that, right? Why you think that a lot of people are trying to change job? I understand, obviously, if you got laid off, then you're trying to look for a new one, right? But the people that they are there in their current jobs, and usually these jobs are well paid, and they have a lot of perks, and they have different benefits, right? Why do you think that they are unhappy? And I'll tell you what I saw in the article, and let's see if we agree. But what's your perspective?
Well, one thing maybe is I think it's the culture of job hopping. I think it's especially I think in FANG, I think it's a common thing, right? You do your 2 years here or whatever the vesting period is.
It's 4 years usually.
4 years. So after that, you move on to the next and you kind of start building your career like that. So I think that's maybe one thing. It's kind of expected to happen like that. A lot of times you don't see people sticking around much longer than that nowadays. I know before it used to be different, right? Where you would spend your whole career in one job. By the way, like my mother-in-law, she's retiring this year from Schlumberger oil and gas company, right? And she's there for her whole career. She was there. It's basically like 40 years or something.
Wow.
And one company, and a good thing Schlumberger does do pensions. So I mean that's a good thing, right? It's just, but you don't see that anymore. It's just kind of a different way of approaching work and jobs nowadays, right? And again, jobs nowadays don't usually have pensions either. So the expectation is that you're going to be moving from one job to another, I think. So that's one thing, maybe.
Yeah. I think that there might be multiple, right? In the article, they were saying that that it was kind of people that were looking for a work-life balance. So, but maybe let's define that, right? What do you think that people is thinking with that? I have a very interesting opinion about that, but from your perspective, what is that?
Okay, so maybe just start with the basics, right? Work-life balance, 40 hours a week. That's kind of just your standard 40 hours a week. Is it more or is it less? I don't think many times it's going to be less, but there's going to be some folks that have some pretty cush jobs and they can probably do multiple jobs, really. And that's the whole kind of overemployment, OE is what they're calling it, approach, where you can have 2 to 3 full-time jobs. Of course, the whole work from home piece or work remote piece is what's enabling that. So that's another thing that people usually talk about when they're talking about work-life balance is being able to work remotely. A lot of folks don't like going into the office because one, it's either maybe too far, the commute,
Yeah.
they're saving money and stress on the commute. Or two, some people don't like the human interaction. Maybe there's more introverts, especially maybe in the tech industry.
Yeah.
They prefer to just sit down, do their work, get in the zone, put their headphones on, and crank stuff out. They do that. So I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah, but from my opinion, yeah, all of the above, right? Um, but the problem is that we don't get empathy from other jobs, right? Like let's say my wife, she was a teacher in some point. Dude, she needed to be on time, right? So there's a lot of jobs that it requires you to be in a specific time. And in tech jobs, it's very flexible, right? Like some people, they just wake up at 9:30, 10 a.m. in the morning. They just log in, right? And they start just working. And it is flexible when you get in, and sometimes it will be flexible when you get out, right? So I think that usually those type of jobs, and also depends on your skill set. Some programmers might be like super fast, and they might be equivalent to maybe 5 people, right? Why? Because their output is not linear, and we usually are used to think that kind of that output. You kind of put your hours, and you're supposed to get X amount of work. But in some cases, it might not be, right? Or maybe it's funny because sometimes when I'm telling people, a problem might take you several days or even several weeks. And sometimes it might be just a couple lines of code. Like literally, if you see the output, it's like, seriously, 5 lines of code? Then it took you like couple weeks, right? But the problem is that some of these systems are you have to debug and diagnose and try to understand the problem, and maybe this actually will influence and impact millions of people, right? Imagine if they're trying to fix ChatGPT, right? And there is only one line there, and it will just literally just have an issue with millions of people. So I really think that for me, the flexibility is important. But also, I think that techies, we are kind of very cushioned, right, compared uh, to other jobs. And I think that sometimes we are losing maybe a little bit of the perspective. That is like, man, like we have it good, like with all of these perks, right, compared to other jobs. So I think that we just need to be fair to the company and to your team, right? And yeah, maybe if you like remote jobs, well, start looking for those.
Yeah, I think, in particular with tech, I think a lot of it can be pretty independent work where there's not a lot of interaction that's maybe needed throughout the day, right? So I think it lends itself to being able to, be able to go as fast as you can. You get your work done in 3 hours and then either chill, play video games. I don't know what developers are doing, outside of that, or some people will take on a second job or moonlight or whatever the case is, right? So I think that leads itself to it. But like when we're talking about work-life balance, people that are maybe not in the tech sector and are not like developers or coding and things like that, there's typically a lot of interaction that you need. And a lot of times people are like in meetings all day. That's pretty much their full job. And you need to have that interaction with other people. So it's not independent. You can't have independent work. You're really working with others throughout the day. And I know that's almost like anti what a lot of tech workers might expect to see, because it really is independent work. They're cranking out code, whatever the product it is that they're working. So it's a different way of life, but it's really interesting. I can see you might start to get burnt out if you're in a high paying job. That means there's going to be some pretty high expectations. And if you're not delivering like we're seeing right now, like people could get laid off. So that's what you might see. So I think this whole, like this percentages that you mentioned, 30 and 60%, over 90% of the workers thinking about that, I think it has to do with maybe the burnout, that's just kind of par for for those types of jobs is the expectation is that you're going to move every few years. So I think that's probably it. I don't know. Do you think, let me ask you this. Do you think people that are in like these FANG jobs that are high paying, do you think they take like sabbaticals in between their jobs? Like they take 6 months off before they go to the next one?
I mean, and I think that is just a little bit of the lack of awareness. Dude, they're getting paid like between 5 to 10 times more.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not expecting to work as 5, 10 times harder than others, right? Yeah, it's real. Burn down is real, right? And I think that usually I tell people, try to go in a pace that you can be in the next 5 years, 10 years, right? Consistency is like an athlete, right? It's like you don't want to pop your Achilles tendon or your knee.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about that, did you saw Sock? he he popped his like ACL, but
Ooh.
hopefully he gets better. Yeah, from the MMA sparring. But anyways, my point here is to be able to pace yourself. And I think that that's what it happens. A person just joins a team and they start just sprinting and going very hard on everything, and suddenly in 6 months they're born down. So,
Yeah.
and I think that I hear people sometimes when they want to leave tech industry, they want to do something else completely, right? Because as you said, they're burning down. So, yeah, it
Yeah, I
is
could
real.
see that. Well, especially if, let's say you did FANG for like 10 years or something like that. 10 years, you might have $5 million saved up or close to that, right? And, after 5 million, you can, if you really wanted to, set up your account so that, you just get a dividend or a yield every month and that's your income. You don't really have to work anymore. So, you might still need to have to do something, right? So you're not
Yeah.
bored. So they'll leave kind of the industry that they started off in and do something like, I don't know, underwater basket weaving,
Yeah.
something just way out there, right?
The problem, though, is that talking about the tech hubs, some of these places are very pricey. Like San Francisco, you have to pay like 2 meals, 3 meals to get use a house, right? So with a backyard, and that's the thing. They will have to move. And some of these people, they really like San Francisco. They really like Seattle, right? So, but yeah, they will have to make those decisions easily. They can move to any other place, right? Lower income, basically location, and they can retire, as you said, with that amount of money easily. They can just put in a in some T bills to be able to get, I don't know, maybe 6 to 7% depending on the interest rates, and yeah, they can live out of that. So but yeah, it was interesting to see that how the techies are um, looking into a job, but might be reflective and on other jobs.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm sure there are some other jobs that do pay as well. Um, they don't come by as often as what you might see in tech. I do remember seeing some people would do like a day in the life of a Googler or something like that. Have you seen these
Yes, I have seen
Instagrams?
it. Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, oh, I wake up at 9. Oh, I walk onto campus by 10. I grab my coffee. By 10:30, I have my first check-in. And then, that's how kind of the whole day goes. And then by the end of the day, they've only done 30 minutes of work. And so it's like, yeah, I think I've seen like they got caught or whatever, and the wrong person saw that and, they got fired. So, I mean, I guess be careful what you put out there because people are watching and it might not look good on your part, right?
Yeah, and also for me, that's kind of like your work ethic, right? It's like, come on. I mean, you're bragging that you are literally only working 30 minutes, right? So, yeah, I think that each person can do whatever they want, right? But at the end of the day, that's not being fair to their team, to their company, and all of that, right? So sometimes corporations, they look evil, right? Everybody's like, oh, against corporations, and it's like they just want money. Yeah, but if you are actually literally hiring an employee and he's not putting the agreement, right, at least X amount of hours, yeah, it's not cool. I don't think that is cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially if you're managing a team where you have, you have like star people and then you have the people that are just working the system. It's like, okay, in some places it's really hard to fire people. So you might just end up being stuck with them. So that's also the hard part. So I mean, fortunately, I think a lot of I don't think they really would blink an eye to let go of people. If they're not performing, but in other places it's not as easy.
Yeah, and most places you can depend also on the law, on the state, and so on the country. But yeah, you have to formulate kind of a document, right? And you have to paper trail. So in that way, kind of everybody's covered and the expectations are set, right? So, but yeah, I think that depending of the state, some states are more um, open about that. So, but yeah, I think that for me is like, man, when you catch those type of people, because I have seen some people through my career, and it's like this is bad, right? And trying to set the expectations is like and it's to me so weird that you have to say that. It should be kind of obvious, right? But it's not.
Yeah, for sure. I know my personality, I'm usually at 100% doing one thing or another. That's where this podcast is coming from, right? We're both kind of wired in a way where it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. We're putting it all out there. And so, but some people aren't like that. And they're going to try and get something without putting in the work. So I don't know.
Yeah. Talking about inputs and outputs, dude, AI basically lying. So there is a lot of implications. It's not only the news, though, right? It's like the whole news is basically that you have this AI that is literally doing some inside trading. And when they were trying to question the chatbot, it would try to be deceptive and say, no, I didn't do it.
It's hilarious. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So there is a lot of aspects of psychology, right? The other one was persuasion too, right? So they are getting very, very sentient, right? I mean, they are not sentient at all yet, but it's just for us humans, it's like it's just interesting, right? Like how the whole dynamic. What's your take?
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. I mean, we're basically witnessing AI grow up, right? From like little kid AI to like toddler AI. We're gonna see tantrums here pretty soon from AI, I'm thinking. So I'm not sure what to expect here, but I mean, that's pretty interesting. Like it's like when you catch a little kid in a lie, right? They're like, no, I didn't draw that on the wall. That wasn't me. I think we're seeing AI is kind of doing the same thing. So it's very, very interesting, kind of the growing pains that I think we're seeing some of this. So that's why when I hear the conversations about AI is not sentient yet, or it doesn't have feelings itself yet, like how can we tell it's not just like a baby version of AI that eventually is going to grow, that it does? I mean, and it could have, like, there was the famous Google ethicist that was essentially, I think, fired for saying, hey, I think our model here, I think it's able to like think for itself and it has feelings. Because the guy, when he would talk to it, he would have these long conversations with it. And the way I guess they had their model set up is like it would be awake for a long time, and it had memory of older conversations that it would have. So he would have conversations with it, and it would have memories, it would have thoughts, it would have like it would strive for certain things, so it's really, really interesting to see some of this stuff is starting to surface to like maybe the commercial aspects. Like, we're using ChatGPT. Have you seen there's some comments that say, when you're using ChatGPT, say please, or when you're using ChatGPT, hey, take a deep breath, slow down, take it step by step. And when you say these things, it does better. Like it performs better. So this is really, really interesting, the whole psychology of these things.
Yeah. Interesting. I have not, but I'll test it out. Usually, I'm just more like demanding and more commanding. Do this,
I
do
need it
that, right?
now.
Do it shorter, do it larger.
Tell your daughter to ask please and see if it gets a better
Let's see if
output.
she gets better. Yeah, exactly, better output. But the thing that I was thinking, uh, what it will literally make it conscious is like usually one of the things that it allows us to keep growing as humanity is our ability to plan the future, right? So even for food and all of that, it's like literally to try to figure out and the patterns and all of that. So when ChatGPT start planning things like that, right, like ahead of what it is, that will be creepy. And on top of that, also the maybe when ChatGPT say, you know what, no, I need vacation.
I need some time off. I'm
I
burnt
need some.
out.
I'm more down, right? So that was like, oh shit, yeah, it's
Uh,
this thing is sentient.
yeah, it's too funny.
I need
Well,
to be in a data center in Cancun.
I need to feel the humidity. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Then
it's
Terminator is coming.
yeah, we got to watch out for that one. Well, Sam Altman did release kind of some news this week, and just saying that we got to be we could see some really strange outcomes, right? Out of ChatGPT or any of these models, right? General AI, because we just don't really know what's going to come out of it. Like he's saying, like you mentioned the persuasion earlier, right? It's like ChatGPT could become like the ultimate persuasion engine. Think about it. Like if we're us as humans, we're saying whenever you're making an argument, you need to have some evidence or some facts that you can pull. A lot of times, if we're trying to make an argument that's like maybe not prepared argument, we're
Mhm.
not going to have access to like articles and journals and things like that to pull evidence from. But something like ChatGPT has access to everything, right?
Yeah,
If it's connected to the network, to the internet, it's going to have access to all the world's information all at once. So it should be able to make a hyper persuasive argument. And what are we gonna? How are we gonna compete with that? That's gonna be pretty interesting. So, yeah, it's something to watch. I think that's why Elon he started going down the path of the neural link, because he's like, look, the only way we're gonna be able to compete with Terminator is if we have the little chip implanted in our head too.
we'll put the chip on you and let's see how it goes. You let
Malfunction.
us know. So you start glitching there. It's okay. Ramirez is just glitching.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Well, interesting stuff this week. I mean, I know there's always something new coming out, but I mean that's pretty interesting though. The whole AI line is gonna be super persuasive. It's gonna try to convince us of lies. I mean, that's what we already see, like the whole media machine, fake news, blah blah blah. It could get harder. I don't know.
It's gonna get harder, and like always, right? You're gonna see companies trying to defend kind of those fakes, right? Those deep fakes for voice or for images, and it's gonna be random because people is not gonna believe anything. Which maybe
Yeah.
that might be good too, right? Because they might have to do research and all of that, right? So, but yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more hectic for sure in the next few years. It's gonna be the Wild West because right now it's not even very well regulated. So people they're gonna have bad actors, right? Just doing it left and right. So until we start getting some repercussions.
I know it. Well, hey, everybody, if you like the content that we're talking about, hey, make sure you like and subscribe. This is super important for us. We're still trying to grow our user base, and it's only going to be through you that we're able to grow and bring you more content like this. So please be sure to do that. Mondo, you got any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, let's make sure that AI doesn't become the next Terminator.
Hey, we got to do it sin miedo. See you
Sin
next
miedo.
time.
Dale.
Bye.